says that there is no future for us all without some measure of forgiveness. Because until we release our oppressors from having to pay the debt that they cannot pay, it's too much. They can pay some, and they must, in order to redress and repair the relationship. But for that which they cannot repay, the people who have died, the communities that have been broken up, the languages that have been lost, we must release. Because until we do, there's a toxic tie between us. Until we do, we are still demanding from them something that actually God could give us.
Yes.
And they don't have the ability to give it. They don't have it. We're demanding $100 from people who have five.
Yeah.
They give us $5 and we keep demanding that 95. Who loses in that equation? We go to our grave $95 short. But if we then turn inward and to lay hold of the image of God in us and begin to enact that dominion, as in make decisions that impact the world and reform our communities and reform the way that we engage together in the world, and go to God and say, God, you are the one who owns cattle on 1,000 hills. And God, you are the one who moves mountains. And you say that you delight in giving your children what they need. Then we turn to God and we say, okay, God.
You write that forgiveness is a pure power.
Yes.
What do you mean about that?
See, I learned that. In a very personal way. I was wronged by someone in my family's purview when I was a child. And I had a toxic tie to this person. In other words, I thought that, my future was dependent on whether or not they repented, dependent on whether or not they acknowledged what they did. And so until they acknowledged what they did, then I would be tied to that person. In the same way, I think we, people of African descent, the diaspora around the world, can have a toxic tie to our oppressors and think that our livelihood, our futures are in the hands of our oppressors and their capacity to repent. But to release, which is what forgiveness means. It means to release one from the debt that they owe you. It is to turn to your oppressor, to the one who oppressed you, and to say, you can go now.
Yeah.
We don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
Go now.
Wow. I love you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I'm telling you, this is deep right here. This is the gospel right here. Listen to this here.
Yes, absolutely. Retributive justice seeks retribution for what was done. Retributive justice goes in cycles of violence. You can never get to peace through retributive justice. Instead, what you do is you continue the cycles of violence. We see that in nations that continue to have cycles of violence. In fact, we see it in America. In fact, America's prison system is a retributive justice system. And what it does is it creates cycles of violence in Black communities and actually in America. You see it in war in nations that have perpetual war within their nation between ethnic groups. But if you make the shift to reparative justice, or another way to put that is transformative justice, then we have the ability to have the kinds of justice. In other words, making things as they should be. That's what justice is. Making things as they should be. That doesn't just seek to punish, but rather seeks to transform the relationship between those who have done wrong and those who have received the wrong. If we can transform the relationship and get us to the place where we can all live in society together in a transformed relationship between each other, where now we are not trying to continue the cycle of violence, but rather we have paid redress. We have acknowledged the wrong. We have forgiven that which cannot be repaired. We have then transformed the society to make the power, to level the playing field in terms of the power differential. And now we can all stand together in a circle of humanity and make decisions together about how we will live together in the world. Then we will have transformed. We will use the conflict to transform society into the beloved community that Dr. King talked about back in the civil rights movement.